You are listening to the Mark Guzman Podcast Experience. On this episode, we get into how to adapt your real estate career for the changing times. My guests today are Kerri Naslund-Monday with Keller Williams and Bill Davis with Hines Realty Group. Both started their real estate careers at the bottom of the Great Recession. They adapted to a tough business by becoming different. Today, we discuss challenges they faced, marketing on social media, and creating an online auction base to sell properties. Be prepared for a lot of useful advice. So I want to thank my guests today, Kerri and Bill, for coming on to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it should be good. Actually, before we get started, go ahead and adjust the mic so that it's closer to your mouth here because you want to speak right into it.
Or maybe scoot out.
Yeah, there you go. So this episode of Real Realtors is a sub-series of my show where we basically just talk all about real estate. So let's get started with Kerri. When did you get into real estate and how's it been for you?
So I got in right at the tail end of the good, right before the bad. So I got licensed in 2006. And at that time, I was just getting ready to get ready. And so I didn't really get to experience the good, the easy, all the stuff that everyone else had experienced. So when it did crash, I wasn't boo-hooing at the water cooler. I was just still trying to figure it out and still trying to build my business. And I think that was actually a gift because had I experienced how easy it could be, then maybe I wouldn't have hustled so hard.
Bill, when did you get into the business and
I got
how's it
in
been
at
for
the
you?
bottom. It was at the bottom. It was 2010. I got my license. And that's where it kind of just, everything, bank-owned, foreclosures, all the garbage wasn't picked up yet. Banks weren't flipping properties yet. Everything was just trashed. And so, but since then, I've been watching it gradually go up from 2010. So over 7 years now everything's priced high, and
Going higher.
Properties are nice looking and easier to sell.
Yeah. I think the two of you got in at the perfect time, though, because I got in 2003. So I experienced that little period where everyone was buying and it was so easy to sell properties, and then it crashed. And I think there's something that happens to you when you go through that period where everything's super easy. And I had just been in it for like 2 or 3 years before it started to turn. And then you just had this massive crash. You have to really adjust to it. And it's a big, giant adjustment than what you're used to. Whereas, and you saw a lot of agents drop out of the business when the crash happened because it was super hard to adapt even for experienced agents. Now getting in at the bottom, completely different because now it's tough. Now you're getting in, but that's what you know. And you adapt to it extremely quick and easy. Mm-hmm. And I think it actually makes you a much better agent starting at the bottom and coming out of that, because now you guys have been in it for, a good 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I experienced it at the car dealership. I worked for car sales for a couple of years, and I was at the peak. They were making money. It was easy. Everybody just running around selling cars. And then I went from it was like a 400 car sale month dealership to a 20 car month. And so I just watched the whole crash, and people that had been in the business for 20, 30 years, they all started getting depressed and losing jobs, and it's pretty crazy to experience that.
Yeah, so that was very similar to how real estate was too. Do you still keep up with the car sales?
Not too much.
Okay, because I think it seems like car sales are back to that level where people are just selling left and right.
Well, you can see it out there. Everybody's driving new cars right now.
Yeah,
true.
If they're not buying a house, they're buying a car.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally feels like right now, like 2005, 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it feels, and even the prices too.
Oh, beyond, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's waiting for the floor to fall out from underneath them. But if you look at supply and demand, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. There's just too many people.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that the two of you faced early on in your career as a new agent. So, Kerri, let's start with you. What was one of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Well, so because the market had just crashed, then business wasn't just coming to me the way that other people had experienced. So I wasn't just answering the phone and closing a deal. I actually did have to go back to basics and start building a business. And what I personally did was looked at what nobody else wanted to do. So I got in deep with short sales pretty early. And so everyone was throwing their short sales at me because nobody wanted to mess with it. And so I built a whole team around short sales. We called ourselves the Bay Area Short Sale Angels, and we hit it out of the park. We were doing some amazing business, but we didn't know anything different. And so going and battling with the banks was fun for us. You know, we were trying to win it. We were trying to like beat the man in a way.
Yeah. Did you do all the negotiations yourself, or did you hire third-party negotiators?
So we didn't have an actual third-party negotiator, although we did have a negotiator on our team, Monica, and she was a hammer. And let me tell you the secret behind her success. She speaks Spanish. So instead of calling into B of A and having one of 20 loss mitigators answer the phone and you just get who you get, she would call in the Spanish line and she would have 2 or 3. She had them dialed in. She knew what their kids' names were. She knew what their dogs' names were. She was like best friends, BFFs all the way with these people, and our files were perfect. And so they were excited whenever we would bring them a new file. And she kept it that way. She was really good with the rapport. She's still around, and we still do an occasional short sale, but we kept it in-house. We didn't hire one of those third-party companies because they, in our eyes, they didn't have a fiduciary responsibility to the client, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't dropping the ball on anyone because of someone else's, failure to follow through.
That's a great way to hack it, though. Have a Spanish speaker contact the Spanish loss mitigation department because they would only have 3 compared to 20.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a great way to hack it.
It's
Bill?
like knowing the relationship for your underwriters.
Yeah.
To the same underwriter every time. Deals happen faster.
Well, that's the way even the foreclosure market was, because I ended up getting into the foreclosure market, and when I got into it 2007, it was about building relationships. You would go to the REO conferences, and like you literally did not have to attend any of the classes or the conference itself. You would just hang out by the pool, wait for asset managers to come up, and you just start talking to them, and then they'd recognize your name and this and that, and you get to know who they are, their wives and their kids, and
take them out to dinner.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's the way it was up until probably 2010, after the Dodd-Frank Act came in, and then they started placing all the different restrictions into the foreclosure market. That just became a completely different ball game, and then it became down to grading as opposed to relationships. So that was a little different. But I like that hack on the short sales. Yeah. What about for you, Bill? What was probably the biggest challenge for you when you got into real estate?
I think the biggest challenge was, we were already at the bottom, so I didn't experience anything else. And so I think it was just building my business. I didn't have any clients. I didn't have anybody. I mean, I started when I was 25, so all my friends, and nobody could buy a home yet. Nobody had jobs that could pay for a home, or the other challenge was nobody had credit yet. Everybody lost their jobs, so it was hard to find a solid buyer that's willing to buy, a house in that market. So I think that's what I was seeing. It's the thing is the prices were a lot lower, so people didn't have to qualify it for as much, but people were kind of skeptical on should they buy. Is the market going to crash? And the people that did were smart and have a lot of equity now, and people that should have bought 10 years ago are buying now. And
yeah.
So
now, did you start with Marcus Hines?
No, actually, I started over in Lafayette. When I got into real estate, I was like, I'm going to try to go sell $1 million houses right away. So I put myself right in the middle of Lafayette, and that's kind of where it got a little. It was difficult. I saw that it was people-based, people knew relationships, and so I was kind of just out there, and they actually switched hands like twice while I was there, from the managers. And so that's when the companies were selling out.
Yeah.
There was a higher turnaround. as far as, people moving around. It's just like that in the dealerships too. It's
Yeah.
people. It's a high turnaround job.
So coming from the car industry, how did that help you in real estate?
I've been in sales since I've been 16. I've never had a W-2 job, so I think just selling is selling. Cars, selling houses, selling cars, selling shoes at Macy's, being a server at a restaurant, it all comes together. It's just knowing your product. And so I think that's what I've learned is just, it's now I know my product is houses. So now inside and out of that, of course, it's more complex and, you got to know more things, but same thing as a car. You got to know your car, you got to know what you're selling, and dealing with the people and customer service and, the tactics and things like that.
Have you been able to siphon clients from the car dealership days into real estate?
No, I was not organized like that. I would just wait. I was waiting for the come list me's. Those kind of those kind of deals. You just wait for somebody to come in and say I want to buy a car, and you go walk them over there and sell it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different. I didn't keep a database or anything like that.
Okay. Let's talk about marketing. I'm always curious to see how different agents market the business. And if you follow Inman.com, the whole real estate website, they sometimes feature certain agents that do some really cool stuff. Like recently, I think it was a couple months back, there was an agent that was advertising free tacos for an entire year if you bought his listing. And so I don't know if you would really want free tacos for an entire year, but it was pretty interesting advertising, and it made the news. So I want to talk to you and ask you how you advertise your business. So Kerri, let's start with you.
So my tagline, and it goes on, everything is not your average agent. So I try really hard to not do the same things that other agents. That's something that I learned early on in my business. Do what nobody else is doing, and the business will come like a landslide because of it. So before I was marketing around the short sales because nobody wanted to do it. I was marketing directly to agents to take the short sales off their plate because nobody wanted to mess with them once they did one or two. They just decided that was not their jam. But now my specialty is surrounding online bidding. And so that's where I put all my marketing efforts into. We offer online bidding for sellers as an option. Of course, we do traditional sales all day long, but that's another option that they can choose. It's a way for us to keep up with what some of the competitive online people who are trying to break the industry by saying, hey, you don't need real estate agents, just run your property FSBO style on this auction site. And this is a way to offer those tools and keep full agent representation going and full commissions happening on both sides.
So how does the online bidding work? Mm-hmm. I've always been very curious about that. My only experience was through some of the foreclosure sales years ago, but I haven't really had any experience in the last 4 or 5 years with online bidding. So how does that work? Let's say I'm a seller, and what would be the benefit to online bidding?
Got it. So with online bidding, we do list the price 30% below where our goal market value line is. And so the benefit is that we are getting a ton of traffic in a very short amount of time. The listing period is typically a week. So in 7 days, we're selling the house, and there is a buyer's premium. So the buyers oftentimes are picking up the buyer's side of the commission. So that's another benefit to the seller. And the last benefit that I really like is a lot of times you'll go to a listing appointment and you'll be in competition with other agents, and they will have put together a laundry list of items that seller needs to do in order to prep for market. And I like to be able to say, hey, we can do just maybe a fifth of these things, a tenth of these things, just a couple $1,000s worth of work as opposed to $20,000 worth of work. And let's test the market through the online auction, see if we hit your mark, and then we can go with it. So it's a great way to test the market and see if we can get the seller their ideal price without them having to go through the stress, the time, the energy, the money to fix their property up and prep it for market.
Or the mental
stress
of signing like a 3 or 6 month listing agreement, right?
Totally. So yeah, my listing agreements are 10 days. If we don't achieve the results in 10 days, I am not going to hold them hostage to a listing agreement. Sure, sometimes if we don't achieve the results, either the house does need some of the work that to make it more presentable, or the seller's expectations are unrealistic, or the market's just not ready. I mean, I ran a couple auctions in December, the week before Christmas, and out of the 5, 3 of them were successful, but 2 of them weren't. And I'm going to say that's more of a market deal. I mean, who's out looking to buy property the week before Christmas? Pretty much investors and vultures. So if it doesn't work, then more times than not, those sellers end up sticking with me because they've already developed a relationship. They see how I hustle. They see that I have plan B set up already, which might be to prep the house and rerun an auction, but other times it's to prep the house and go traditional after that. And that's the seller's choice. They can do whatever they want, but it's just that extra tool in my toolbox when I'm coming into a competitive situation with other agents that sets me apart. And regardless if they use it or not, they leave that meeting thinking, wow, that Kerri's doing some smart stuff.
Yeah, I like that technique.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Do you guys go just off of the price, or do you guys look at terms also, as far as the financing?
Great question.
Because you're looking at just, the prices. Because I went through one of those auctions.
Yep.
And I just, I was curious. So I went through with it, and there's no questions on financing.
That's right. Yeah, so we do go off of price only, and the winning bidder has 24 hours to get us their contract. When I do speak to the winning bidder's agent, I tell them to write their offer as if they're still in competition, because the seller does have the right to accept, reject, or counter for any reason. So if that contract comes with some terms that are unacceptable to the seller, then we counter, or we reject and go to the next highest bidder, which is only $1,000 less than the highest bidder. So we've got a really good pool of backup buyers.
Ooh, I like that. That puts a lot of pressure on that winning buyer to really just kind of give into some terms if there's some unacceptable terms for a seller.
Exactly. And a lot of times if the property has some special needs and just can't go a certain way, I'm marketing it that way. If it has to go all cash because of condition or property type, then that's how it's being marketed. So all the people who are bidding saw it online being marketed that way, hopefully talk to their agent about what kind of terms were acceptable, and at the open house, which the open houses are limited. So that's another benefit to the seller too. There's no lockbox. There are set, limited open houses where everybody has to be there at the same time. By design, we want them all looking at each other in the eye because that's their competition. So we want the competition to start before they even start bidding. We want them bumping elbows with the people who are going to be going up against them. And then the eBay effect takes over once they are online pushing the button. And the way that I first got into this was I experienced it from the buy side. I had buyers who were bidding on a property. We did all our comps. We figured out exactly where we thought we should come in and how we would have written our offer had it been traditional. I was doing the bidding for them. We hit their max price and we got outbid. So I texted them and said, I'm sorry guys, I don't know if you're at work right now, but we just got outbid. And they both texted back, we know we're watching, because it's transparent. Anyone can watch. You don't have to be registered to watch. We know we're watching. We want to go up an extra 20,000. And I said, are you sure, guys? We might be reaching an appraisal issue problem territory here. And they said, yeah, we're sure. So I went up an extra 20. We got outbid again. They said, go an extra 10. And I said, all right, you guys, you are going to have appraisal issues at this point. And they said, we don't care. We'll cover the gap. Go an extra 10. We went an extra 10. It ended up going an extra 50 above that.
Wow.
And it closed. It closed. You want to know why? Because appraisers use the bidding data, the bidding history, as hard data to justify their price. That's awesome.
Wow.
So you show them the bidding sheet or?
Oh, I take that to every appraisal. Yeah. I make sure that they have that, because appraisers can't just go off of, well, everybody thinks that it's worth this much. They have to use hard data. And that's why a lot of times appraisers just say, I'm sorry, I did my best, but this is the highest I could get it. I've had several instances where there are no other comps with what the final sales price ended up at, and the appraiser came in at value using the bidding history.
Interesting.
That's very amazing. I'm going to put this podcast on auction because this is amazing information. So, wow. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
that was
problem.
A lot of information.
I'm sure a lot of buyers come from that too, calling in. So
Believe
that's where the marketing comes in, I see.
Yes, they call me all day long. I wasn't ready to get into the market, but I saw your property and I saw the price, and I'll be there on Sunday. And then we get their information, we follow up on them, and then they turn into buyers. So there's an amazing buyer pool. And unfortunately, for other agents, sometimes we get buyers whose agents told them not to mess with the auction, because there's a lot of discrimination from other agents. A lot of other agents automatically assume that it's distressed property, and agents are afraid of change. They like just change. Are. They don't like anything different than their regular, vanilla real estate. And so because of that, they tell their clients, don't mess with that. It's a scam. It's a whatever. And what buyer ever in the history of buyers has ever said, okay, I'm not going to go look at the great deal because my agent told me not to? No, they're there on Sunday or at the open house, and then they're asking me what's the deal, and they're actually saying, well, my agent told me not to mess with this. And I explained to them, look, it's 100% transparent. How many offers have you written? How many have you gotten rejected? And do you even know how much you lost by?
Now, what website do you use for auctions?
I have a personal website. So for mine, it's eastbayhousesales.com.
Now, is there a software you use for the auctions, or you built it into the website?
It's through a company called homebids.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm actually a trainer for them as well. And so if any of the listeners have heard anything that has sparked some interest or made them want to add this to their toolbox for the agents
we'll
out
be
there.
Talking. You and I will be talking. Yeah.
So I do teach the certifications, and then all you have to do is purchase a website.
Can you do that for rentals too?
Oh.
Yeah, see, I do property management, and I handle a lot of rentals.
I've never seen it done with rentals, but that would be amazing. I mean, we've run it on land. We've run it on luxury. We've run it on like tear down distressed properties. And then, of course, all the regular stuff. But I haven't seen it done on rentals. That would be awesome to watch.
Yeah, it would be a little bit different because you deal with qualification standards and there's a credit screening
But you can pre-qualify them before they register.
Yeah.
You can pre-qualify them in order to be able to register, and that could be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I would be very interested to do like a test trial and see how that works.
Yeah. I could partner up with you on that, and we can run one on my website, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk afterwards.
Well, you get to see what the market's willing to pay. You don't know what that apartment's going to pay now. So
some people are desperate that they'll just go throw down whatever because
that would be the thing that I'm afraid of because I do have some clients that are not always trying to get the top dollar rent. They want to get good quality tenants, something reasonable rent.
So it could scare people, possibly.
It could possibly scare people. My concern would be if it's a great property and there's a bidding war, and then you just start having basically it comes down to the rich of the rich, the richest people being able to come in and offer the highest amount. And it might be great for a landlord, but then it might not be so great for all the other tenants who couldn't get that property, whereas they might have had a better chance if it was one set price,
Right.
where multiple people meet the minimum income qualifications, and then it comes down to credit.
Right.
Right? So it just depends. But I
Well,
know
you
some
can
clients that would
always
love to do something
Say
like
that
that.
the top 3, like, get the requirements or the credit scores and all the.
Yeah,
all
there
the
would have to be
verifications.
pre-screening done before, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, otherwise it might be a headache if you just have everyone bidding on.
It's an interesting thought, though. I like
It is, yeah.
I've been talking to a lot of people that are looking for rentals, and they're like, how do I, they keep getting outbid, or not outbid, but they're not
Denied.
getting chosen.
Yeah.
And they ask me, like, what should I do? And so, you can't just, there's one set price, it's hard because everybody's going after it.
Exactly.
So if you're thinking outside the box, like I tell, well, offer $100 more.
Yeah.
Offer $200
Yeah,
more
so
a month.
in that case,
Or,
it
stuff
would
like
help
that.
someone if they can offer an extra
Yeah.
$100 and then they win it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely some pros and cons, but I'd be very curious to do like a test property, or if
Sure.
you test different markets and see how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be talking for sure.
Okay.
So Bill, so how do you market your business?
Currently, I work with a lot of referrals. I think what I've done lately is, I casted my net too large, and I think that's what most agents are doing right now is they try to go after too many people at one time, and so like what I've been doing lately is, because I grew up around here, the El Sobrani area, like I focus on the Richmond, San Pablo area just because I know everybody. And so what I do is I just focus primarily on just making sure I keep connections with my friends and family and people I went to school with, and just making sure that, just like when you first start, you want to make everybody know that you're in the business. And so you need to be the go-to guy. And so that's finally, I'm getting to the age now where my friends are getting jobs and careers and
Starting to think about
families
buying,
and
right?
thinking about buying. So now it's starting to happen to where, I'll probably get like one referral per week. Maybe more, it just depends. And so I think the older I get,
That's a really good rate.
the older I get, the easier it's going to be, because now, and the more connections, like my son right now is 2, once he gets into baseball and the school, like, just kind of building those relationships and getting just to be the go-to guy, and so the way I stay connected with everybody, I have everybody in a database. I have my sphere, so I still do, I do football schedules, and, I do hard mail still. I don't really believe too much in hard mail anymore and emails. I still do it, but I just don't see anything from it. But I think it's the guerrilla marketing where you still have to do everything and be everywhere. They have to see you multiple times. But Facebook, social media right now is my number one. I took all my money out of Zillow and all those other advertising that, I get probably 2 calls a week from people trying to sell me leads and stuff like that. And so
Isn't it amazing how every week you get a call and someone magically dropped out and now they've got a special spot open for you?
Yeah.
For you only.
For you only,
In
yeah.
the next
I like
3
to hear their
hours.
pitch though. I like to kind of, some people are good. Some people I'm like, maybe next time you do a little better. Maybe they're new. But, I like to kind of hear their pitch, and just kind of see. But yeah, it's sometimes it gets annoying.
Yeah, Facebook's been great. I
Yeah.
mean, that's where I do a lot of advertising on Facebook. I don't do Zillow, Realtor.com. I did think about, I almost jumped into Realtor.com over at Inman Conference. They had a great deal for like 18 zip codes, like their banners, their agent ads, everything. It came out to like $900 a month. and I almost jumped on it, but I was like, for $900, I could reach way more people on Facebook.
Exactly.
And that's just where people are at.
I think where that kind of hurts, like, you know, doing hard mail, like trying to get listings and things like that, like, you know, the postcards, you don't get the older generation. And so I think that, you know, like Facebook, the older generation is not really there as far as like they're not going to click a home valuation online. They're more of the, you know, they want to see it and call.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, so hard mail, I tell people it still works.
Yeah.
It's just way more expensive. Your return on investment is going to be much lower.
Yeah,
now it also
reach
depends
1,000
on your
people
niche.
for, you know, a couple $1,000 versus Facebook, where you reach so many more people
For $20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's getting. I have been noticing Facebook's getting more and more expensive, and you know everybody's saying you need to. I think it's an open market right now, and people, you know, like they say in real estate, you don't want to copy or reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I think with Facebook you do because nobody's done it yet. And so I think that it's still very open as far, and people are still trying to be creative with their own thing and try to do their own marketing to what works. So I think that's very open right now.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
You know, like I tell, you know, we got a few agents on my team, and I'm telling them like to stick with your area. Like don't go too big. Like I'll see, you know, there's times where somebody will pop up on my Facebook from Washington.
Yeah.
And you know, like stuff like that. It's like, dude, why are you advertising to us?
Yeah, because they didn't specify any demographics. They just
you gotta
put
know what
United
you're
States,
doing.
and that's it.
You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so one of my number one things right now is I look to see what other people are doing. So I follow people around the world. So like there's, you know, I Google and up late at night just trying to find out who the top followers are as far as real estate. And everybody's actually from, you know,
Keller
just
Williams?
from everywhere.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm talking about like from Dubai. Dubai is actually the number one real estate, you know, for followers on Facebook and stuff. So if you follow them and see what they're doing, and they're, you know, as far as like, you know, like I want to say in the beginning of last year, nobody was using emojis. You know, they were just using text, and it was plain, nobody saw it. And then so I started looking elsewhere, and I started seeing people using emojis and hashtags, and you know, just to like, how are they going to read you versus others? And so, you know, picking up little things like that, but you're not going to know that unless you're not seeing what other people that are being successful at doing it. So you got to stay in the know, but then also kind of still be thinking creatively.
That's one thing that I don't think many agents do in this business is you have to treat your business as a business. Many agents treat it as just like, oh, I'm just selling houses, or this is kind of my job. But you're really the CEO of your own company.
Absolutely.
And you have to treat it as such. And I like that. You stay up at night, you Google and look up what other people are doing around the world and see how you can even put that into your own business or adapt or even make it better.
Yeah, just pick and choose what you want to use and make it yourself.
Yeah. And I think everyone needs to do it because, like you said, it's a wide open ocean right now because no one is doing anything. And that's why I started podcasting.
It's gonna get a lot more expensive and harder, I think, in the next coming years or so.
Yeah. So when I market my real estate ads for like rental properties, I usually do about $20 per ad, and I'll target a certain demographic. And probably 2 years ago, I would reach 4,000 to 6,000 people easy. Now it reaches about 1,500 to 2,500. So it's more expensive to reach the exact same demographic.
Yeah.
Right. So now I have to tweak it a little bit more to not just get the cheapest rate, but also to hit the people that are going to see the ad, click on it, or want more information on it, and actually maybe make an appointment and rent out the property.
Yeah. Like right now is the time that I think to build your business on Facebook, because people that are waiting to see what other people are doing, and once they see that it's successful, it's going to be too late because now it's going to be too expensive to build a business like somebody's doing it like now.
Well, you know, before we started recording, we were all talking about Gary Vaynerchuk, and one of the things that he talks about so much in his speeches is how it's very underpriced, social media and just online marketing through Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. And when you have companies like Coca-Cola and these big brands that he works with that are still dumping billions and billions and billions of dollars into TV, print ads, and just traditional marketing, what happens when they make the switch and start going toward Facebook and all these? I mean, the prices are just going to skyrocket.
Right.
And at that point, it's going to be too late to get in because it's going to be too expensive for most of us. Yeah. So start now and start building your brand, right?
That's why, I think just you got to stay in the know. Listen to Gary Vee, like Grant Cardone. Like I listen to all, just read audiobooks and just stay learning to know how to, and it keeps your mind sharp to be creative. Like I get creative late at night, like kids asleep, wife asleep, I would just sit there and I figure out what I need to do, or, you got to have, I think if you're not doing anything, you're not going to get creative and you're just going to do what everybody else is doing.
And of course, add podcasts to the list.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Yeah. So let's talk about getting to know a neighborhood. One of the common questions, buyer comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm looking to relocate to this area. What's the neighborhood like?" How do you handle that question?
So my easy answer for that, and I guess it's really area specific, but if it is a neighborhood that has potentially a small stores, a liquor store, a market, or even a small grocery store, that's where I tell them to go first. Because if anybody knows exactly what's going on in the neighborhood and who's crazy and who starts drama and like who has the dog that bites everyone and all of that, it's gonna be those community store owners, because they get to meet everyone and they know the dish on everyone. So that's where I tell them to start. Now, if that's not available to them, then I tell them to absolutely drive around, walk around the neighborhood at several times of day and night if it's appropriate for the neighborhood, and actually talk to people, especially the older folks who've been there for a long time, and they'll tell you about it. They might not have their timeline correct because, they talk about things that happened yesterday that might have happened 10 years ago. But still, they're going to be a really good resource as to what's going on in the neighborhood. People with kids, usually those people have already done the homework that you're trying to do. So if you talk to them, then they can tell you all about the schools, all about all the playgrounds, all about the local events that happen in the community. So that's kind of where I start. Okay. Go to the people.
Bill, how do you answer?
Kerri is exactly right. I mean, that's exactly what I tell people is go to the stores. Especially like in Oakland, like in areas where you could get rough in some of the flat areas, but you could go up the hill a little bit and the houses are nicer and they're more expensive. They're all still going to the same stores, though. Mm-hmm. So check out the stores. And so that's one of the big things. Another thing, though, too, like I work with a lot of people that are coming from San Francisco or, Marin, that's getting too expensive. And so they come over to the East Bay. I tell them to get a hotel room. Get a hotel room, stay there, do the commute one time.
Yep.
Because they don't know the actual commute. They'll do Google Maps. Oh, it only takes this time. No, actually sit in the traffic in your car and do that, And so I tell them, go Sunday night, do the Monday morning commute. Especially, I work with people that come from South City, San Francisco, and move to Oakley in a brand new home. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So do a hotel, Airbnb, and
stay
pretend
there
like you live there.
Do the Sunday night, do the Monday morning commute, and see exactly how that is going to be. And you're going to do that every day of your life for the next, whenever you retire. Because that's what I think a lot of people don't. And I think that's where new agents, they don't educate the client enough to where they get in contract really fast. Like I have a lot of new agents, that are on our team, and they get them in contract really fast, and then they back out and they think it's for certain reasons. But I'm like, well, maybe it's for other reasons, and that could be one of them. So you gotta point out all the negatives. Point out all the negatives. Don't point out all the positives, and get them in contract fast. You gotta point out all the negatives to want them to not get in contract. Because if they say that they want to get in contract after you point out all the negatives, then you got a deal. So I think that's
a good tactic. I like that. And you're being honest with them up front too.
Yeah. I don't walk into a property and, oh, look at the double pane windows. Oh, look at the chandelier. I don't do that. I walk around. I point out all the negatives. When I'm showing properties.
Interesting.
Hopefully you don't show up to any of my listings.
Well, when I bring a buyer that they've been educated enough.
They're real.
Yeah.
Got it.
They're not going to get scared during inspections.
Perfect. So I want to thank the two of you for being on the podcast. This was a very good informational show. And We'll go ahead and link up all your information, but just go ahead and tell listeners best way to reach you. Kerri, we'll start with you.
So I do really well with text, so you can always text me at 510-409-4966. My website is theeastbayagent.com, and then my online bidding website is East Bay House Sales, that's plural, .com. Those are the best ways to get with me, but and my email address is all over that. Social media, I'm everywhere.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Bill?
Call or text 510-685-9178, and you can reach me on Facebook, Bill Davis, East Bay Realtor.
Perfect.
And just Google and you'll see me.
Perfect. So we'll have everything linked up. And again, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Thank you to our producer, Sam Lemon. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share the podcast. Remember, you can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Google Play, SoundCloud, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. For more information on my business as a property manager and real estate team, go visit my website at markguzman.com. I really want to thank all of you for listening. It means the world to me, and I hope today's episode provides you value in your day-to-day life. I created this podcast to help showcase the many great people that live in this world and help share some knowledge that I've learned along the way in life. Again, thank you for listening. Check out our sponsors, and I'll catch you on the next episode.